Life After the Rams with Colin Gibson.
Welcome back to Life After the Rams. After a summer break and a World Cup packed with drama, we're kicking off Season 2 in style. We're joined by a true Derby County icon, Ted McMinn, the entertainer, the enigma, the winger who lit up the baseball ground, but whose life was changed dramatically in the mid-2000s. So yes, welcome back, Season 2 of Life After the Rams. After a summer break and a World Cup that gave us a few shocks, here are the stories and a reminder of why football still grabs us. This season, we're proudly supported by Mr Shaw's House in Derby, our home for live events, and by RamsTrust, the Derby County Supporters Society, established to promote good governance and fan engagement. They welcome new membership applications from all supporters. Just visit ramstrust.org.uk/membership for more details. So we're starting the new season with a name every Rams fan knows. Ted McMinn. He wasn't just a winger, he was a showman, a player who could lift the baseball ground with a single touch, a cult hero whose personality was as unforgettable as his football. Today, he reflects on his journey, his time at Derby, and the life that he's built since hanging up his boots.
Life After the Rams with Colin Gibson.
Ted, we'll talk about football, obviously, but let me take you back 21 years and, you know, some people say, it was a life-changing moment and so on. For you, what happened 21 years was life-changing.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I'm really surprised it's that long, really, when you said there 21 years. But, yeah, life-changing. I think a lot of things were going through my head at the time about surviving, really, thinking how much is it going to change your life. Not so much and my life as well, my kids' lives, Marion's life, and that was something that a day that you'll never really forget, when somebody's going to tell you, by the way, that we're going to have to operate in your foot, and from your foot to amputee just below your knee, your leg.
What happened?
I think everybody's scratching their head, by the way. Was it an infection? Was it something that had been in my body for years and just all of a sudden wanted to come alive and start eating part of my leg, eating the bones? They never had answers. Their main job was to get rid of the infection and to keep me alive, and no make the infection go any further up where it was, and it got as far as the foot, the toes, but like just to be happy that's all that was happening. They then sewed the sole onto the front of my foot, which then I never had any toes, so I didn't have any balance, so I just was going to be in crutches for the rest of my life, and my option was to have a good part of my leg cut off, 4 inches below the knee, and have a normal life again. We put in making a leg that would fit, and wanting to be able to drive again, and get rid of crutches and get rid of a wheelchair that they were going to give me. So for me, it was probably one of the lowest times in my life. But there's been other battles after that, and it's like I said at the time, it was more worrying that you've got 2 young kids that are still babies, and you've got your wife to look after and things like that, and you just feel there was days that you just felt absolutely worthless, hopeless, and but then again, you've got to snap out of that and get on with life.
I presume that's what you had to do to ensure that maybe mentally it didn't get worse. Yeah,
mentally, yeah. Then there was things that doctors saying, take this for this and take that for that, and the side effects were enormous and huge, and I just didn't want to do that. And for me, it was just, I think straight away was to start planning to be active and busy, and we done that straight away. I still had stitches in my leg, and I started to, where they amputated, and I wanted to start to walk. They were more or less saying you're too early to walk, but like things in life, when I set my mind to something, I want to stick to it and I want to do it. And I started to walk within 3-4 days of being amputated to try and rush things like I always do and try and be active again.
I mean, I was working with you at the time, and it still takes some believing that it happened, that this former professional whose life was completely immersed in sport, tearing up and down pitches, getting kicked uphill and down dale by Stuart Pearce down the road and so on, that suddenly everything had changed so dramatically.
Yeah, and I think there's another time before that I felt as low when I had my knee at Tottenham, when Mr. Cargill was looked at me, and it was exactly the same feeling again, that the World Cup was coming up. I had a chance to go to that, playing the best football in my career, and then everything snaps in your knee and you think that's bad, but then that leg can get better because they made it better, and I made him play again. But I knew with this, they can't put a new leg in the bottom of me. I was going to have a bit of metal, a bit of carbon fibre, and that's going to be my leg for the rest of my life. There's never a day goes by that you're not in pain. There's never a day you wake up in the morning in pain, you go to bed in pain. But it's either that or go and lie on the couch and feel sorry for yourself, which I don't want to do. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. Maz is the only one that knows when I'm really, really struggling. The kids a wee bit as well. But it's one of them things in life, it ain't going to get better. It ain't going to grow back. You just got to just get on with it as much as you can. And if there's anybody that you see and they'll turn around and say, I can't believe how we've done this or whatever, it's just a matter of, you just, like I say, I work and I've worked at the cricket club, so I've kind of always been active, and that's the way I want to be. I'm no spring chicken anymore, but I don't see myself retiring, and this will certainly not slow me down. So, but it's life, and like I always say, there's always somebody out there worse than me. So it's the sport and all that. And the frustrating thing with sport, my little granddaughter Ava plays under 15s for Hamilton. I would just love her how to cross a ball, how to drill a ball. She thinks it's quite funny when I kick it with my false leg. Which is quite sore actually, but she keeps on passing it to that leg. But it's one of them things that I get frustrated because I watch her, and I would love to show her the things that I've done. She can watch it on television, but watching it and doing it is a completely different thing. And that's the thing that gets me more frustrated. But I love going to Scotland, watching her, taking her to a Rangers game and getting her in that atmosphere of saying, listen, I was on that other side of that, and I've just been to the Old Firm game where, and she realised how much it must have been to be on the other side of that white line rather than be as a supporter. Do
you make her watch the older VHS videos of you torturing wingers? Torturing fullbacks? Yeah, we love
it. We go up there and she'll go, right, Papa, let's put YouTube on, and you can get any game on that. And like I say, the goal against Man United is not the best kind of recording in the world, but I love watching it. And she'll go, God, a left foot, but I scored quite a few goals with my left foot. But she'll always say, but you were mostly right-footed. And I said, well, if you look at a few of my goals, most of them are left-footed. And she loves watching it. She's very, very proud. I just think I just wish she was there a wee bit earlier, that she could have seen you playing. But there again, our mums watched me playing, and like I say, lucky enough that Kevin watched me playing. But it's one of them things. I watch her and I say to her, you've got to kind of drill it. And she goes, well, you should. Our dad can't do it, even though he played football. But I love watching games, European games, anything football-wise, sport-wise, darts, whatever. She's very, very into it. And the good thing about it is she's having an education, which I say to her, that's one of the most important things, because you've got to have a plan B. If your dream doesn't come true to be a footballer, you've got to have a plan B. I never had a plan B. So she's just got a few more brains up there than I had ever had.
I was saying nothing about that. I just think this thing about life changing and it trips off the tongue, so easy to say, and how much of a difference it obviously made to your life. But I also remember the humour that you had with it as well. And I can picture being in a car on a Friday afternoon, and you, me and Ross Fletcher are driving to an away game.
I think it was Ipswich.
It could well be, yeah, and you'd probably be criticising my driving and use of sat-nav and so on. And anyway, we're stuck in a traffic jam, and somebody in the car next to us turns and looks, and I don't know whether it was that they recognise you or not, but Ted being Ted, you took your leg off and showed it to them and sort of held it aloft like some sort of trophy, and myself and Ross just fell about in the car.
Yeah, I mean, that was... I done the same thing in Germany, to get disabled, to get closer to the stadium for the 26th World Cup. We couldn't get any England tickets, and we ended up going to watch, I think it was Japan against somebody, because that was the only tickets you get available, and the police waved us through, because we had this false leg. Didn't even take my blue badge, but I said, listen, I've got one leg, and oh yeah, waved us through, and we got right close to the stadium. But it's one of them things. It's when people, you show somebody their leg, they'll go, their first reaction is, oh, what happened? And your stories are always going to be, they're never going to be the same. You know what I mean? It's like I said to the grandkids, a shark bit it off, and then the other one, it was a crocodile. And you could see them saying, no, Papa said it was a crocodile. Another one's going, no, Papa said it was a shark. And then you say to maybe an adult, you'll say, what happened? Well, I got bit with a shark at Cornwall. And you can see them going, Cornwall? You've just got to... And it's no... I very rarely walk about with shorts on in Britain. I'm very, very comfortable being abroad. But I just feel over here... And I've started to do it a wee bit more. That I go to work when I know that nobody's in. Especially the kids, I wouldn't want to walk about and people say, but why no? It's not something that you want to be kind of people staring at. Although I take it off and the kids at school will paint it, because they just find that, like that they're putting a bit of art onto the leg, and they're brilliant drawing, absolutely brilliant. But then you find it's a permanent marker, and it's not as fine that you're cycling on a Saturday morning and somebody's looking at your leg. You've got Derby County written it, I love Derby County, and you've got every colour and every strip and every team that you played for, and you're thinking, gee, but it's part of life now, and it's never going to go away. So you make the most of it. Like I say, you wake up in pain, you go to bed in pain, you just take it, and that's life, and to just do the best you can.
Yeah, well, you did, and you clearly certainly are doing. 2005, 2006 then is when this happens, and as part of the recovery process, your old team come and invade Derby at Pride Park. I think it's still the biggest attendance ever at Pride Park Stadium. And again, there was the show of love and support from Rangers and from Derby, the two clubs that I suppose you are most associated with.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It was, I mean, the day was an unbelievable day. And I think everybody still talks about it. I mean, somebody brought a scarf into school the other day there, like a Rangers and Derby half and half. And you're just thinking how long ago that is, you know what I mean? You're thinking, geez, where's time gone? And I go up to Scotland, and people, every fan club you go to or whatever, they'll always say it's been the best game we've ever been to. Derby fans, fantastic. Absolutely out of this world. We were terrified that the England-Scotland thing was going to come back. Like years ago, the Texaco Cup, Chesterfield got ramshacked, Sunderland got ramshacked. Rangers are not like that. Rangers fans come, as long as there's a beer, they will be there. And then when the beer runs out, that's when you start worrying. And unlucky for Derby, by the way, the bar did dry out, and you're thinking, oh no, we've got another 45 minutes to go here. There could be a few problems. But it was a great day. People that went back home, some went the wrong way, some went south, but they ended up going back into home. And I got plenty of phone calls just thanking, for a great day, a fantastic day. We couldn't have got a better day. And like I said, the players that turned out was brilliant. You know what I mean? It's just...
Even your old nemesis from down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, people, the boots are still in there hanging up. You know what I mean? It's just, it was brilliant. I mean, Arthur pulled a masterstroke there. When Arthur started to pick his squad, I think everybody's thinking, who is going to be his captain? Because you've got Wrighty, and you're thinking, you've got Pearcey, you've got Clough. You're just thinking, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. Wrighty's got to be the captain. Steamark. you've got a choice of captains here, of great players, and you're just thinking, he gives the armband to Piercy, and it was red, and you're thinking, and he's got red boots on. So you're just thinking, an unbelievable move by Arthur, and of course him scoring and kissing his badge. Forest fans would have hated that. You know what I mean? I don't mind him doing that. I think the Derby fans loved it. So, but the day was just made by 33,500 fans that turned up, and they will never get beat at Derby. You know, it's a day that the young kids that are, you know, in their 20s now will think, you know what, that I would love to go to a Rangers Celtic game or whatever. It's a day that, and I would think in my football career was probably the best day ever, just to lead the two teams out and see all them fans just appreciating your Hectors, your Sheltons, you know what I mean, Lee Camp, just players by way that played for Derby and spent the time of coming to the game, and I think they enjoyed it as much as everybody else did. Just
remind us, where did the whole thing with Stuart Pearce come from?
What in what way? In no liking him, or?
Yeah.
No, it's right his fault. I just put it there.
This is Mark Wright, your former Derby colleague.
Yeah, I think, I don't know who wound who up when they went to the camps, and Wrighty would turn around and say, we'll go in a couple of weeks. The game that sticks out the most, I think it was, did we draw with them at Forest? I think we drew with them, and Wrighty had said, oh yeah, Piercy was talking, Ted, we've got to, he's going to come and do. I went, yeah, okay, no. He said he's at the Forest ground. I was all right at the baseball ground. I probably got more hits at the baseball ground in front of the pop side than I probably did in the A stand. Didn't get as many over that side, but I did in the pop side. I think Piercy just liked to play in front of the pop side because they could get close to him. And there's a tackle, one that I think it was at the City ground when he took me up in the air and I went over his shoulder. And then he's leaning over me saying, you get back up and I'll be putting you back down again. And then you've got Arthur saying, I'm saying to Gary Micklewhite, we'll swap wings, and Gary Micklewhite, no, I'm all right over here. I'll play against Laws. And I'm thinking, oh, and Arthur's going, if you're going over there, you're coming to sit beside me. And you just got on with it. I mean, very rarely I ever got the better of him. And I'll be honest, it was one of them, you knew you were going to get hit, and it was how early on you were going to get hit. But as a player, would I have went and played over at Forest? I'm not so sure I would have. For him to come and play at Pride Park, I gave the man so much credit. I would, but like I said, it's a hard thing to do. And they put a Derby strip on, I could never put a Forest strip on. So I maybe go over there and they said put that red on. I don't think I could do that.
You have to put a t-shirt on underneath.
There's quite a few t-shirts. But like I said, credit to him. We had some great tussles, and I would say he won every single one of them. There's no game I could turn around and say he was so strong, he was powerful, his whole presence in a game. I think the size of his thighs, always wore short sleeves, he looked like he went to the gym every day. He just knew when he got hit, bloody hell, he didn't have hit you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the times that you played for Derby, Forest usually had the upper hand because there were sticks in the throat to say it. They were a good side. Yeah, the only one I can remember watching and didn't play was when Rammer got scored. Rammer won 1-2-1 at the baseball ground. Yeah, when Dean Saunders scored the great header. Yeah, that's the only game that I can think. I think when we got a point off them at best, maybe away from home, with the season we ended up 5th. But it was one of them games you hated them. A wee bit like Celtic and Rangers. Didn't they shake hands with any of them at the end of the game? But it's people who say you're no sport. I just don't really see why I would shake hands with somebody that's trying to break my leg. And that would still go nowadays, you know what I mean? I just really struggle to think why shake hands with somebody that wants to hurt you. And that's probably saying you're not much of sportsmanship, Ted. Well, that's fine. I don't play golf by way to lose. I play golf to win. Anything I play, I want to win. If it's against my granddaughter, don't care. She's got to go. She's got to go down. You sound like my wife, really. When we used to play games in the pool with the girls, and I used to say to her, you can't let them get the ball. No, it's all about winning. Yeah, that's true. And that's I try to install into the kids. You know, like Pippa's very, very into gymnastics. Ava's into football. And I just say to them, just do your best. Pippa doesn't see that side of it. She's 10 and she goes, it's just a taking part, Papa. I said, no, you want to walk away with gold. Silver, bronze, never remember.
always go for gold. So it'll get there. She's young enough, and she's kind of learning, and she's a bad loser, which is good, because there's no such a thing as a good loser.
What about Celtic Rangers then? I mean, you played in it, so...
Yeah, the best games ever to play in. And I think watching it, that game I went up in March, the 2-2 game, made me feel even more how important it was to be a player. Because the ball boys were giving the Celtic players stick, and they were the ball boys. And the hatred between the fans to the opposition team was just unbelievable. I think when you're a player that you turn off, you don't hear that. But when you're a fan and you're watching it and you hear it, you just think, gee, was it that bad when I was playing? Was it that heated that, like winning a throw in or a free kick or somebody diving? Was it that bad that you got that much stick? You remember they didn't have a lot of fans. It was a league game, so they only gave them 750, and it was just a great experience to be there with Ava and watch it and listen. Didn't he sit down? Nobody sat down. He stood the whole game. You were never going to tell somebody, the guy in front of you, to sit down. And when you score, everybody jumps on top of everybody. You know what I mean? I've got the guy beside me, he stood in my white trainers. I was just more worried that he'd stood in my white trainers. And I've got a big foot mark in my white trainers, and I'm trying to clean my trainers down, and he's jumping on top of me. Ava's on top of somebody else, and some guy's got Ava up in the air, and I'm thinking, geez. And it was an unbelievable experience. But I was quite frightened to take Ava, because the week after that there was an invasion in the pitch. And she said, Papa, I don't want to go back to another Old Firm game, which kind of scared her off because of what happened the week after. And lucky enough, I was the league game, not the cup game. Yeah. But it was a game that to play in, any footballer that's alive would want to play in. That's the game you'd want to play in.
What memories do you have of any specific
League
games?
Cup. The League Cup, winning the League Cup. The 1-0 game, which is August 86, was the best game I'd ever played for Rangers in my life. It was one of them that every time I got the ball, I could beat 3 and 4 men, and I knew when I got to the byline, that's when the problem started, because it wasn't always guaranteed to go in the box. It was guaranteed most of the time to go behind the goals. And it was just one of them games that it was my best game, and I just felt every time I got the ball, I knew that I would beat the person in front of me, and then I'd beat the person in front of him, and again. And it was just to be a part of that team and the League Cup and winning something. I think winning something was a big thing in football. And lucky enough for me, playing in the Old Firm games, I played in 8, I think I only lost 1.
Yeah. Of course, an old mate of yours, again a former Derby colleague, Tommy Johnson, once scored a pretty famous goal for those in the hoops, didn't he?
Yeah, I blocked Tommy. I blocked Tommy just after that. I blocked Tommy actually since he went to Celtic, but Tommy used to text me every time he played against Rangers, because Tommy had quite a good record against them. Again, Tommy scoring against Rangers, he didn't have any time to think. If you give Tommy time to think, like he did for Derby, the chances he missed for Derby because he had time to think. But Tommy had a great career, you know what I mean? He went up there and he done a brilliant. I think he loved it as much as playing in Scotland than he did probably any other club, you know what I mean? He spent time up there, spends a lot of time in Ireland now, but Tommy was a brilliant player for Derby. And Tommy took my position, and people always thought that we would never get on, but I couldn't have wished for a better person by the way to hang about with.
I seem to remember, again, this is stories going to and from commentary games for Radio Derby, that you and Tommy would go out most Sundays, bizarrely, in Nottingham.
Yeah, Tommy used to say, listen Terry, it's easier for you to get Shady Doug to bring you over to the pub over there. I forget what it's called actually, Rodney or something like that. We go over there, and it was the times when it was 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it closed unless you went to a restaurant and had a meal, which we were always hungry about 3 o'clock and went to a restaurant, had a meal, and then I'd stay at Tommy's, and then we'd rock up at Rangeway on a Monday, which Arthur clocked straight away. I think used to have been out. I mean, Tommy wasn't the best at hiding, he was being sick in the car. Tommy was sick quite often actually in public. Obviously, so it wasn't any. I think everybody thought at the time that Tommy was sick at the baseball ground, thinking, God, Tommy was out last night. Look, he's been sick over there. But we say, and then both there, our eyes would be gone and everything like that. But we were allowed to. It was a Sunday. It was after the game, and Saturday night we'd probably have a night out in Derby. But it wasn't very nice going over there. But it wasn't. I didn't really call. I called it at the outskirts of Nottingham, not the city centre or anything like that. But we had a great time, and like I said, Tom was one of the guys that I could have felt it was easy, but I knew that that's when things were moving on at Derby. I mean, he was bringing Tommy in, Gabardini, Kitson, and I knew that the change was about to happen. My knee wasn't the best, but I couldn't have wished for a better person by to take my position as Tommy.
No, he was a great person to be around. So let's go back then. You went out to Seville, followed Jock Wallace out there, but it didn't really work, did it? Was it a good experience?
Brilliant experience. Their language was just the biggest thing ever. Like again, education-wise for me was again, I struggled talking English. I'm now having to learn a language by way that you'd be lucky if 100 people in the whole of Seville could speak any English. You're reading a menu that's on Spanish. You don't get what you get nowadays in French, German, Spanish, English.
You'd have Google Translate these days.
Well, you can just talk to your phone and you can find out what you're eating. But it was just, I could just say 2 cervezas, por favor, la cuenta. So that was my 2 beers and then the bill at the end of it. But then again, on the flip side, you're playing in stadiums, being brought up in a council estate in Dumfries. You're now playing at Barcelona, you're playing against Real Madrid, you're playing against Atletico, Valencia, Betis. You're playing against teams, stadiums that are out of this world, which hold 100,000, but you're never going to get 100,000. Seville held 80,000, but we're lucky if we got 45,000, which is still a big crowd. But for me, when Jock phoned me up, they just watched a game against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Jock said Seville wanted to sign you. You never said no to Jock. Jock wanted you. Jock got you. And of course, I was playing probably the best football that I had been at Rangers. Had a couple of disputes with Graham Souness. Again, my fault. But Jock wanted me, and more or less Rangers said you're not going to go cheap. And then had a follow up with Souness, and then I went a bit cheaper than what they wanted. And but I loved it. I loved my time out there. It wasn't easy because the language, the time you could spend out the country wasn't as easy as what you got. You couldn't just be flying back every weekend. You had 30 days, and if you went more than 30 days, you got hit with tax. It was just a completely different thing. But when Jock got the sack, I knew then I could get out. I doubt I wasn't going to let Jock down. Jock got told sacked pre-season because we had a bad pre-season. Don't really get that one. Jock left, and then I think it was about November time. I said to Jock, "Can you try and get me back into the UK?" I said, "I'm homesick." Jock said, "Right, I'll put the things out." He put the feelers out, and there was Watford, there was Newcastle. A club in Spain. It was on a bit. The club saying Bayern Munich, but I think that somebody had made that story up. But Jock said, "Listen, there's a few clubs interested in you." And like I said, Newcastle had been interested, and I spoke to Newcastle first. Wally McFall. I spoke to him, gave him a word that was signing, but I think Paul Goddard was there. Because I remember Paul Goddard remembering the game. It was half an hour before a kick-off, and somebody came in and said there's an important phone call for you. It was a game before I was playing against Betis, and Paul Goddard remembers it because he was at Newcastle, and then had the conversation. Everything was settled, and what I was getting a car, I was getting this, I was getting that. I was really happy with the deal, and then everything flipped on its side when Stuart Webb turned up. And he'd turned up, came to the hotel, playing against Betis, and everything just went, my head just exploded. I'd already agreed with somebody. I've now got Derby County coming in.
So why did you change your mind?
I spoke to Arthur, and Arthur was very, very like Jock Wallace, very, very Arthur picked the phone up, and he was very, very short and thinking about, what is your problem? What is the stumbling block? I'll give you this, that and that. And I said, I want a car. And he went, yeah, we'll get you a car, you're not going to Newcastle though. I said, I have told them that I'm going there. Well, you better tell them you're not going there. And I went, yeah, okay, and then Arthur just put the phone down. So, and rightfully so, Jock said, you need to phone Newcastle. I said, can you phone them? He said, no, you said yes, you said you were going to do it, you phone them up. Phoned up, I waited to the end of the game, phoned up, I had the direct number, they got through. I said, sorry, Wally, I'm going somewhere else. He went, you're not going Derby, are you? I went, he said, we'll give you more money. I said, it's not about money. I said, because they're paying me less money, you were paying me, so it ain't about money. He said, what is it? I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to Newcastle, and I put the phone down. And then I felt bad that I'd already promised somebody something, changed my mind, but I knew deep down that I'd done the right thing. I wanted to play for Arthur, and I knew Arthur had chased me at Queen of the South and at Rangers. So if somebody chases you that much, they must chase something. And it was the right decision, the best decision I've ever done in my life. And lucky enough, to me, I think it worked. I went there, and I still live in Derby. So there must have been something right about Derby that coming here. But if they showed me pictures of the pitch, I ain't so sure I would have came here. When I look at St James's and I look at the baseball ground, I'd have probably had second thoughts. But it was a decision that I made. And then I think I turned up at Derby by the way. I'd got lumps kicked at me the night before, and I can remember Stuart Webb sitting in the stand cringing every single tackle I went in. I ended up with 6 stitches in the back of my calf, and I think I had 4 on the top of my knee. My sock was just red. The white socks were just red with blood. And then the next day, of course, I flew to Heathrow and was met by smuggled into the country by Gordon Guthrie.
Yeah. Debut goal, of course, which we spoke about earlier on. And then the sort of the evolution of the Derby team comes, and we can see now probably why he wanted you, and there was Gary Micklewhite there as well. Nigel Calhoun was there just sort of coming towards the end of his time with Derby. Paul Goddard, again, who you'd mentioned, joins Derby, and they're looking for another striker to make that link. And they bring in Dean Saunders. Mark Wright's been signed. Peter Shilton's been signed. And 88-89, that team just flew.
Like you're saying, you're naming players there. Dino, to me, was as good as Ali McCoist as a finisher. Absolutely. You look at Dino's goals, and you watch them against Arsenal, against Wimbledon. You just look at his heading goals. You know what I mean? He just, the one he sent Steve Bruce out for a pie at Old Trafford. You're just thinking of the goal. He had so much variation. And as a winger, me and Gary, or Nigel, or Nigel was at the end because he went to Villa. But me and Gaz, we were honest, we could play anything over the top. We knew that Dino would get it. Sarge wasn't quick, but Sarge was brilliant in the air. He could flick on for fun against Villa. You just go through games that you played that season, and we won games. We didn't fear anybody. You beat Man City 6-0. You're just thinking, beating Man City 6-0, Derby never beat Man. Kids would probably never believe it. So you're just thinking, I remember the reserves winning 13-3 against Everton. You just go back to games that you just think, we didn't fear anybody. We would never, Mel Sage, who's Mel Sage? Mickey Forsyth. Who's Ted McMinn? I can remember walking in that dressing room. I bet that nobody knew who I was. There's not one that they would say, you probably couldn't even Google it then. But you're just thinking, who knows who Ted McMinn is? Who knows who Mel Sage is? I never knew who any of these lads were. So I'm going into a dressing room thinking, where have you played? Where have you played? And all these players that Arthur had signed hadn't come from big clubs, except like Dino had only come from Oxford. Wright had came from Southampton. Schultz had came to Southampton. So none of these were all big, they were all whole name names, but you're just thinking, they've no really been, and it was just brilliant to go in there and you thought, a whole, I mean, lucky enough, scoring in your home debut made a big difference, I think, in my career. I think the quicker you get the fans on your side, it's a hell of a lot easier. When you walk out in a pitch, and the one player that I pick out who he could have scored 10 goals in one game and still would get booed when he went on, with Nick Pickering. And you know what? He's the loveliest guy, the best guy in the world. But whatever Nick done, the fans would never take to him. And it was quite sad. But there again, I got injured. Gaz got injured, so Nick had to be a winger. Nick was never a winger. You give Nick a ball and Nick could run all day. Nick could run here to Stoke in an hour. You give Nick a ball, it would take Nick 2 days to get to Stoke with a ball. It was just the unluckiest player ever. But that team, we won 13 away games. We all got plaques at the end of the season saying a record amount of away games for Derby County team. Completing more games now they play. I think it might have been beaten now, I don't know. But I think that team there, we were so close together. We just didn't feel we ever got frightened to go, except maybe Anfield would be the only bit that you ever went and thought, because I remember they smashed Palace the week before and we went 1-0 down after 2 minutes at Anfield, and I can remember every single one is looking at it and went, it can't be 8 and it can't be 9. And I think we didn't lose the game a lot, but I remember we got battered at the baseball ground. That might have been a 6 or 7. It might have been a 6, I think. But that was the only team that I think we ever feared, that we thought, you know what, we can't beat these. And I think that's the same for a lot of teams. We used to go into games thinking, we can't beat these. We can't go to Old Trafford and win. We went to Old Trafford and won, and the season after. We just didn't feel that anybody could beat us. But I think our away record was better than our home record.
Yeah, it's a remarkable away wins. I'm sure this will change, but since that win in, I think it was November 1988, no other Derby teams ever won at Aston Villa. That's how long ago it is. Yeah,
and then I think was it that season they beat us in the cup?
Yeah, maybe.
You got a hat-trick, or was it maybe the season after? But I remember going to Villa and beating them over there. I think, did Dino score there as well?
Yeah.
Sarge flicked on.
Yeah, got the goals.
But just two. Sarge was the nicest man you'll ever meet in your life. You know what I mean? When we went in the end of the season, he had a martini and dry martini and lemonade. We're all going out, lads, what do I 13 pints? And Sarge is like, just dry martini, can I have a couple of olives? And they're thinking, I ain't going to the bar and buying that. Great, and a brilliant bloke. And as a player, couldn't you meet a nicer bloke? You know what I mean? He was just a gentleman to play with. But him and Dino just clicked straight away. You know what I mean? For two small guys, you thought there's no point in us putting balls in the air, high in the air against Mountfield or anybody, a big centre half, because everybody had a big centre half. We had two. We had Wright and Big Rob, but them two could just win headers for fun and make each other click. And it was me and Gaz were lucky.
So 1988, you go to Tottenham and absolutely tear Tottenham to pieces, and you scored 2 goals.
Yeah, again Tottenham. You're going down there. You know what I mean? Do you fear them now? And you're thinking their team then: Gaza, Stewart, Waddle. You know what I mean? They didn't mab it. They didn't have any bad except the goalkeeper. Other than that, they had a good team. You take the goalkeeper out and put anybody else in there, it'd be better keeper than what they had. Was it Park?
Bobby Mims.
Bobby Mims. Did they get him from Blackburn or something like that?
Yeah.
But you're just thinking, one of them, how that first goal went, and jeez, I just closed my eyes and just drilled it across, and I think it's hit his thigh and went in the corner. You can see even his players like looking at him going, "You're bad," but I never thought you were that bad. Second goal, never forget Graham's commentary. I love listening to the commentary. I can actually put it on and just listen to his voice rather than watch the goal. And then silly me run by the corner where the Derby fans won there, and then had to run around the back of the goals to go back to where the fans were. But again, probably as an individual goal, right, he gave me the byline, and then just hit by Thomas, and I think Mabbitt was the other one. He would never have caught me. Thomas, I thought, might have caught me. And then again, Mims went down like a sack of potatoes underneath him, and then Dino finished it off to make it 3-1. Again, a great result. Back of the bus, back up the road to Derby, beating Tottenham. Derby fans, again, like they are nowadays, you know, they pack up their way end and they had a great day. But I think that season, if you were a Derby fan, I don't think he went away a lot of away games and came back disappointed.
And yet a year later, the cruel twists of football, you'd had an unbelievable afternoon, 3-1 winners. Again, the team of 89-90, not quite on the game as it was the previous year, but where you had such joy at White Hart Lane that afternoon in 88, in 89, it all turned around.
Yeah, it did, and it happened in front of yous. That's the thing about it. I can remember yous were behind the dugout, and you were very low pitch side. It was right in front of their dugout, because I remember I could hear Venables shouting, "Get up, you diving bee!" And I looked at Arthur, and I think Arthur's gaudy by this time had got the little bag, the magic sponge. He was already getting to me, and I remember trying to get up, and I knew that my leg was hanging, and I just thought there was a lot of pain there, and I tried to get up, and I was like a wounded pheasant. I just knew that whatever was in that knee wasn't in the knee anymore, and it wasn't connected to what it was supposed to be connected to. Staff at Tottenham were unbelievable. They got me in there, they had me x-rayed, they had me bandaged, they had me crutches were up. Arthur by this time had been told more or less everything. They had the x-rays to get back to Derby, and the strange thing was we beat them, and we got in, and the first thing Arthur said to everybody, get in the shower, get in the bus, we're going back to Derby. And then Arthur's idea was, Gerard Mortimer, he can get Ted to Derby quicker than the bus can. And Gerard had parked his car away. I don't know if it is the side the which is Ring Road in the M25. So I think Arthur wanted me to get on a train with like a thing about it on, and into Gerard's. I think Gerard had a micro or something like that, and then get me up the road. And then Gerard said it's going to take me an hour to get to my car, then another. So anyway, the decision was made that I'd get in the bus. Got in the bus, and I said, right, can you get me a beer? And Arthur's waiting, you're not having a beer. And I said, Gaff, it might help the pain. No, you sit at the front with us. So I'm sitting at the front. I never even knew what was going to happen when I got to Derby. It'd all been arranged, I think, with the big Del Boy phones in them days. And Arthur had got a signal. And I got to the baseball ground, got in the back of Roy's car, taken it to the hospital. Mr. Cargill looked at the x-ray straight away, he shook his head. And by this time it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm just saying, Chinese Saturday night, it's a Chinese night. And he said, you're not going anywhere, we're operating 6 o'clock in the morning. How bad is it? He said, we'll know when we get in. I remember phoning my dad and saying, my dad knew because he'd listened to Radio 5 or whatever, and he said, are you alright? And I said, I know, they'll not really tell me what's happening. He said, you'll be alright. And you just want that wee bit of comfort sometime. And my dad said, you'll be alright, son, put the phone down. And I knew then, I thought, you know what, this is worse than what I think, but I didn't want to be negative. I thought I could be fit in a couple of weeks. And then next thing, I can remember Mr. Cargill coming in, had the mask on, taken down to theatre. I think it was in there for about 5 hours or whatever. Then he came back up and said, we'll put a pin in there. Your medial snapped, your cruciate snapped. But it was a time when we had 8 or 9 players that had the same thing, not as bad. Because Ram had done his twice. He done both legs. Gary Micklewhite done his. Steve Cross done his. I think Mel done his. There was a lot of it happening. And then straight again, it was rehab to Lillyshaw. And then I got a blood clot in it. Then back to Lillyshaw again. I just didn't have a lot of luck with it. But I knew the cut-off point was April for the World Cup. And I went to Mr. Cargill's surgery near the Greyhound track. And he just said, you can't kick a ball for another 3 months. I thought by that time the World Cup's gone, so there was no I couldn't have any physical contact on it, even though I was miles in front of where I should have been. Again, I rushed things, didn't do it any harm, but I rushed it. And then I knew my dream was over then, but it was a matter of, that dream's over, but my career's not over, or is it over? So that was going to be the next thing. Do I just forget about it and, you know what I mean, just going to pack in with football, which would never crossed my mind, but that could have been an easy option, which I didn't. Went to rehab, came back summer, trained really, really hard, and then big Justin Phillips done me in training. And then he snapped my cartilage, which I'll never forget. Arthur going absolutely bananas because I'd worked so hard. And it was just I went to cross it and he thought I was going to cross it and I'd faked to come back and he caught me. And my leg locked. And I just thought that's another setback. So there's another, lucky it's keyhole then, you know what I mean? It was all, but it was just one thing after another, and you're just thinking, when is my luck going to change? Or is all my luck gone? I've had my 9 lives. And I was out until the debut coming back against Sheffield United to try and keep us up. And then I had a big bandage with an arrow saying, this is the leg that's hurt. Feel free to kick it. And Vinnie Jones took that acceptance, and I think Warnock was manager that day and we got beaten. I think we more or less relegated just after that.
Yeah. It was Derby was certainly on the slide. The club were relegated. First season down, there was the playoffs at the end of the season and went so close against Blackburn, but Blackburn prevailed. Were you thinking then, this is pretty much the end of Derby?
I was, and then, I mean, that hurt that game because we were 2-0 up, weren't we? Beautiful Sunday, 2-0 up. I mean, they had a good team, Newell up front, speedy. But they were just in a bit of a new stage, weren't they? They were, I think Shearer wasn't there then, but he was coming after that. Walker was pumping money in there. We got them back to the baseball ground. We won 2-1. I think I scored that night actually. But I think we knew then that we'd been in that top 6 most of the season and we failed. I think getting beaten in the semi-finals is probably harder than getting beaten in the final. I think for me, we started then, like Tommy was coming in, Kitson, Shorty, all them lads were coming in. And I remember Arthur turning around and saying, I'm going to give you another year's contract, but I want you to play in reserves. And I thought then, you know what, my playing days are nearly over. If I'm being told, go and play and bring the young lads through the reserves, Mark Stellard, Martin Chalky, Big Justin Phillips, Chris Lunick, Martin Taylor in goals, all them young lads, he said, I want you to be a part of them. You bring them through. You captain that team. We won the league. Was it the Pontins League then? We won that, and it was one of them. The pre-season after that, never forget. I knew that then was gone. Then I had a bit of barney with Gabardini, and Arthur turned around and said, I don't want this at training. I'm going to have to put you in the market and see if there's any interest for you. And that was probably, I knew my days at Derby then had gone, and then I got up the next day in training. I went in and he said, Birmingham City want to talk to you. I thought, oh no, Birmingham City. And it was Cooper and Trevor Morgan and Karen Brady was the club secretary then. I went over there and we were going to Italy next day, so they needed to kind of rush this deal through, and I ended up going there without even thinking about it. I should never have went there, but I was rushed into it, and if I'd waited, I would have probably got a better club. Well, a better club for me actually than Birmingham was, but they actually just seen me as a Derby reject over there. I mean, don't have Derby and Birmingham about any great, but it was quite bad when we went to Forest when I had the whole ground, the Birmingham fans and the Forest fans singing Derby reject. I thought, that's bad. When your own fans are calling you a Derby reject, so... Yeah, it was, and the worst thing about it, but Kevin was at that game and he said, the Birmingham fans don't even like it, Dad. I said, no. So I knew that I shouldn't have went there. But my time at Derby had come to an end, but Arthur was brilliant. You know, when he seen me through the injuries, every time I seen him, he was brilliant. You know, he would just say, you're better at Lillyshaw because you're no good to me here. But he always wanted you to be kept in about come to the Saturday games, get in the dressing room, wind Mel up, wind Mickey up, get the lads, get them up and fired up and all that, and I loved it. But I just didn't want to be the joker. in the park was kind of starting to go away because the injuries were picking up. I was getting niggly injuries, putting on weight. My knee would never go down to what it should have been. And I knew deep down your mind's telling you you're finished, but your heart says you've got to keep going. You've got to get another year, get another trophy or something like that. And I'm lucky enough, I got Player of the Year at Derby, which to me is the highest thing that I could ever expected, especially coming back from injury. If I got it before the injury, I'd have been thinking, geez, I've just beat Wrighty, but I think Wrighty won it 2 years in the top, Dino won it, and then lucky enough I won it. But to me it was brilliant that I got something after being injured. So I didn't leave Derby with nothing, you know what I mean? I've got something in my cabinet that the kids come down and see, and like I say, Ava can have when Papa's not here.
Let's not think about that. You were going to Newcastle, you picked the phone up, Arthur Cox was on the other end, and as soon as you spoke to him, you knew you were coming to Derby. So let's finish with the influence of Arthur Cox on you at Derby, as a player, as a person. And I know that in the last year or so, you've caught up with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a strange one, because when you go in to a manager, Jock Wallace was a great manager, and Arthur, there's three people in my life that I could never have done without: Arthur, Jock, and my dad. Arthur was he knew how close I was to my dad. As a family, he knew my upbringing, and I think that was a big thing in it. He knew I was brought up single parent. And I think he knew every time I got in trouble, he would find me. But he'd always think, if I find Ted, that's going to affect his kids. And he always knew, and he would always put a clause in it, suspended for 2 weeks. So I would say, and Marion used to do the letters, and that was the strange thing about it. Marion's my wife. But she looks at the letters and said, I remember typing that out. And Arthur saying, put underneath it, suspended for 2 weeks. He knew that he'd be taking money, he'd be taking food out the kids' mouths. He loved my kids. My kids would do it, but when they were only young. Dana was born in 88, Kevin was born in 89, but any time they ever came with their mum to the game, Arthur would make quite a fuss and all that, bring them into the office, and he was just a great man. When I was down, he knew when I was down, he would say the right thing. He wouldn't say a lot of words. He would just walk by you and say something, and you'd just think, you know what, that's just what I wanted to hear. It was just brilliant. It was just like it would pick you up. You were down, he knew you were down. He just was, and even like the phone calls I used to, and playing golf with him and things like that. I mean, who goes plays golf with the manager and things like that? You know, I mean, later on down the line, and when I had my leg done, Arthur was always on the phone, always like, so how is it? How's things? It'll get better. Keep your leg muscle. Everything that you wanted to hear, I heard. You know what I mean? Because my dad's not here anymore. Arthur was taking that kind of thing up. You've got to keep going, keep focused, keep busy. He's glad that I'm working and things like that. You know what I mean? You've got to get a job. You've got to, and lucky enough, I've always been in work after legs. Starting in 2008, I've never been out of work. But he was just a great man to be around. Watch him, and like I say now, I watched the teams that he had when he signed for Derby, 84, and the players that he got to work and get the promotions, the players from leagues lower down that he would take a gamble of buying, not for a lot of money. You know what I mean? You've Kevin Francis, your Brett Angels, you know what I mean? He went and got, and his scouting system, he went by what the scout said, and there's not a lot of managers. A lot of managers now will buy teams. They'll know and inherit young kids. Well, they will now in the academies, but we didn't have an academy. We had under 18s. So Arthur had an eye for a player like your Stevie Taylor. Stevie Taylor would have been a great player. Would have been a brilliant player. Your Ramage, your Paul Williams. Arthur gave them all chances. You know what I mean? Martin Chalk, Mark Stellard and things like that, Stevie Haywood. He gave them all chances. And you know, when you went out a team in Arthur's and you went and played in the reserve game against Grimsby on a Wednesday night, you know what I mean, you went there, he would send you, go and give me 45 minutes, I need you to get confidence, make 10 crosses, I'll take you off at half time. And he'd go to the game, wouldn't just be Roy, he'd go to the game, him and Gordy and Roy, the three of them would be on the bus, he would go there, he'd either, if he didn't put 10 crosses in, he didn't get taken off after 45 minutes, you'd wait and put your 10th corner, and then if you had to get a booking, he would put you in the reserves to get a booking, so that he knew, and I don't know how it worked in them days, but they counted as a first team. And I remember he said, right, Ted, you're on 4 bookings. If you get booked this game, you will miss Crystal Palace away. I want you to miss that game. So I'd go on and I'd do anything I'd do, kick the ball away, handball it, still couldn't get booked. 85 minutes, the referee books me. He said, I went to put you on there to get booked, and you couldn't get booked for 85 minutes. So but he laughed. And it was just, seeing him, when me and Mary went to see him, was just brilliant to see him. You know, I just remember him shouting with his hand over his mouth and hearing him for the pops. You were at the other side, at the pop side, you could still hear him and you knew what he wanted. And for a man like Arthur is, he got the best. There's not a player that I would turn around and say he didn't get extra out of a player that he signed. He was a great manager, great person, and like I said, as a dad, he's up there with my dad.
Ted, thanks for joining us. Our next episode, that's out on August the 27th and is with Mark O'Brien. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and follow us on social media at Life After the Rams Pod. Our thanks to Mr. Shaw's House and RamsTrust for supporting us. Up the Rams.
Life After the Rams is a Backpass production.